Welcome back, everyone. This is Fourth and Long. Of course, I'm Taylor Hoth, and of course, my trusty sidekick,
Quentin Brandt.
And let's just do it. Let's just
jump
in. Headlines. All right. Big news. I mean, it's got to be Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
He broke his collarbone.
Yep.
And I think this is his second broken collarbone, I believe, but this is on the opposite shoulder.
Yeah, it's on his throwing shoulder.
He had surgery this past week, and there's reports that he could return week 15, which would... You'd think it'd be beneficial for the Packers, but if you look at it, is it really? Do you risk him coming back? And let's say he's rushed himself a little bit, because to me that seems it's really early for a big injury like that.
I think it's going to depend a lot on how Hundley plays and everything, and how the rest of that 8 weeks or whatever goes before Hundley, because the games between Detroit probably going to decide it. Who wins the North and everything, and they could still possibly make it to a wild card game with 9-7 or something. I personally would just let it go to the playoffs if I could, because that's what you're playing for in general anyways. I mean, yeah, you're not going to have a home game at all, but you want to play for the postseason.
Right. Yeah, I think if you're the Packers, you have to not be nearsighted. You got to look to the future, because we don't know what Brett Hundley, his future is, and if he is the future quarterback of the Packers, I think this is good for him, but maybe sitting behind Aaron Rodgers a couple more years would do him good, and you don't want to put Aaron Rodgers in a situation where it's, man, if I play and I take a wrong hit or if I throw the wrong way, what if that leads to a career-ending injury?
Yep, true.
So I think you don't rush him back. I think you just take what happens this season and just live with it.
Yep.
All right, well, let's move on. Jim Harbaugh, who is currently the head coach at Michigan, they got blown out this weekend by Penn State.
Yep.
And we've heard whisperings that maybe if he gets fired NFL, what do you think?
I don't really think of him going to the NFL would be a smart move for him in general. I think he will be getting fired from the U of M. He has no signature win at the college level. He has had, every opportunity to succeed with top recruits, one of the best places to play in college football, and he still has lost to Ohio State. Like I said, he got blown up by Penn State. Every time he got beaten by Michigan State in Ann Arbor twice, while Michigan State was an underdog, and he lost to Iowa last year in Kinnick. So, I think he's gonna go to either a weaker Power 5 school or non-Power 5 conference. But when he was in the NFL, he was blessed with a decent offense that had the right pieces for that team, and then he had a really good defense too.
Right.
So in the teams that are going to be offering him jobs won't be having that at all.
Right. If he does go to the NFL, I'm looking at teams like Indianapolis, Chicago, maybe even I don't think he'd go here, but Cleveland.
Yeah.
But all those teams, they're going to need head coaches probably next year, and all three teams are in positions where they're really not in a position where a coach could succeed, no matter who it is, because they just don't have the pieces.
It's going to be a long rebuilding process.
Right, and you wonder if Jim Harbaugh's not looking for a long-term rebuilding process, looking for something that he can kind of mold, but the pieces are already there.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the Rocky Mountain struggles, and that would be the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos now sit at 3-3 after this past weekend getting shut out by the Chargers 21-0, and the week previously getting blown out by the winless New York Giants 23-10 in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, you can always tell that offense is struggling. They're not moving the ball at all, and the fact that you lost to the Giants without any receiving core, with any household names, receivers. They're starting receivers I couldn't even tell you. They're a bunch of practice squad guys and everything.
Right.
They have the defense. They still have the defense. I think everybody knows that. That's what carried them to the Super Bowl and everything. But that offense has no weapons. And it seems like there's really no drive to get that offense going right now either.
Right, and I think the biggest problem here is quarterback. They have a quarterback crisis. Trevor Siemian has regressed from what he once was. Brock Osweiler is a burning piece of garbage. He's just sitting on that bench taking up money.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And Paxton Lynch, we haven't really seen a whole lot of him.
I mean, they haven't really given him a shot yet, because they think that he's going to develop behind those other two guys, in which they can't even develop themselves.
Right, you can't develop somebody who's raw behind two guys who really don't know what they're doing out there anyway.
Yeah.
So I honestly think Denver misses the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they do too. I think, especially with that division, it's a very competitive division. I think Kansas City's probably going to edge out Oakland again this year for division.
Right.
Unless, Oakland can turn it around real quick.
Right.
But yeah.
All right, last headline real quick. After 7 weeks, the Browns and 49ers are still winless. Cleveland lost to Tennessee 12-9 in overtime, and San Francisco got blown out by Dallas this week 40-10. Cleveland has the Vikings this upcoming week, and San Francisco has Philly.
Yep.
Do you think either of these two teams get a victory next week?
I honestly can't see either. I mean, Browns are obviously the reason they're Browns, and Niners, they're just not good. I'm not surprised either of them are winless. Like I said, half the Browns defense is retiring mid-season and going to different teams. So, it's just ridiculous. Because especially when you look how far, the 49ers have fallen in the last 5 years to being in the Super Bowl, being in NFC Championship games, and now they're not even winning games.
Right.
It's pitiful.
Yeah, I don't think San Francisco has a chance this weekend against Philly, but I think there is a tiny sliver of hope if you're a Browns fan. If you're playing the Vikings, maybe.
Yeah, I mean slightly, but Minnesota's playing really well right now.
Yeah,
I mean their defense is stepping up. I mean the only struggle they have really is at quarterback, but that's a hit and miss day too for them.
Right. I think for Minnesota, it all depends on how Case Keenum plays.
Obviously, yep.
He dictates that offense, and when he's playing good, they play good, and when he's not, they don't play very well on offense. So we'll see if the Browns or the 49ers can get rid of the Ofer this weekend. All right, let's move on to over or under. Game where we like to see, we'll give the statement over, under. Let's start. All right, Quentin, the first over, under. 2 wins for the Browns this year, over or under?
I'm actually going to say even. I think they have a chance with the Ravens and Cincinnati coming up on their schedule. Cincinnati, Andy Dalton, most overrated quarterback ever. He's been carried by, A.J. Green and everything like that, but he hasn't done anything. Ravens are, in general, they're trash. Joe Flacco is arguably the most overrated quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. That defense is not as good as it once was. And, I just think that they can at least get 2 wins. We might even get one later in the year, like Week 17, just because, with teams resting stars for the playoffs, and that would just be the kind of like a trap game.
That's true. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say 1. The Browns always find at least a way to win at least one game. I'm looking at Week 15 against the Ravens. I think the Ravens are a really weak team this year. The offense is just garbage. They've got injuries mounting up at receiver and running back. Joe Flacco is probably the worst quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. That defense isn't what it was. That Ravens defense used to put fear in you. You used to be like, oh man, we're playing the Ravens. It's a tough defense, but Terrell Suggs is pretty much the only one left from that core of that defense that really put fear in people.
And he's going downhill too.
Right. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say 1. All right. Next over under. Colts Bengals this Sunday. 5 turnovers. Over or under?
I'm saying over. Like I already said about Aaron Dalton, he's trash. Colts, we don't even know yet who their starter's going to be because Brissett's been struggling and everything, and both offenses are garbage. They can't catch the ball, can't run the ball. They're not trying to run the ball. They just can't do anything.
Right. A nice quote there from Jim Mora Sr. I'm going to go even. I'll say 5's about right. As you said, the Bengals offense is just meh.
Yeah.
And the Colts, Jacoby Brissett's still trying to learn that offense. And if you do bench him, you've got Scott Tolzien's the backup, who's a walking turnover.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go even, but I would not be surprised if you're right and it's more.
Yeah, and I also heard, Brissett has been struggling to even learn the offense, and it's already mid-season.
Right.
So.
All right, next over under. Mike Trubisky, over under 100 passing yards. So this past week against Carolina, he had 4 completions, only 4 completions the entire game, but still managed to get 107 passing yards. They're playing the Saints this week. Over or under 100 passing yards for Trubisky?
I want to say over. I mean, like you said, he only had 4 completions, but he's only off like 9 attempts, I believe, something along those lines. And I think we can both agree the Saints defense is a lot weaker than Carolina's.
Yeah.
Just look at the stats in general. Saints are giving up a lot of points, but they're also scoring a lot more. That's why they're currently leading the South. But I think Trubisky can actually, open it up a little bit, but it's going to be all how John Fox and everything calls the plays.
Right. I'm going to go over. Yeah, the Saints defense, they've gotten better over the weeks, but I still think 100 yards is attainable for Trubisky.
Yep.
Yeah, very odd, peculiar stat, that Carolina game. I don't think that's one you see very often. So last over under Thursday Night Football this week is Dolphins and Ravens. Over under 40 total points scored in the game.
I'm going to have to say under. Jay Cutler's hurt, which doesn't really matter because the Dolphins are still trash either way. Ravens, we all talked about them a little bit. They're struggling on offense. But, both teams have really weak defenses. So, if it does become a shootout, I wouldn't be completely surprised, but I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game at all.
I would agree. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say 30 maybe.
At most.
Both of these teams are really hit and miss. You brought it up. Jay Cutler's now, Matt Moore, I believe now the starting quarterback. They're going to have to really rely on Jay Ajayi at running back. And the Ravens are just so mediocre with that offense. Joe Flacco, the defense isn't there anymore. I'm going to go under, but I would also agree if this turns into a shootout, that wouldn't really surprise me. All right, time for the final drive. All right, Quentin, who's your idiot of the week?
My idiot of the week is the offense coordinator for the Falcons, Steve Sarkisian. That man is just flat out an idiot in general. He has one of the best receiving cores, if not the best this year. But the Patriots would probably have just edge out a little bit better because they have Gronk has tight end. But with the injuries this year, I think you have to give it to Atlanta. They have probably arguably the best 1-2 combo at running back, and he has a defending MVP at quarterback, and you lose to you give up 24 unanswered points to Miami. You get embarrassed in New England. And it's just pitiful. It's honestly a mess to watch. I vomit at his play calling. It's just pitiful, and I'm offended by his play calling.
I think they're really suffering from that dreaded, I guess you call it, Super Bowl hangover.
I just honestly don't think that he knows how to call the offense with the weapons he has.
Right. My idiot of the week is going to be Browns head coach Hugh Jackson. The Browns this week during their game, they benched DeShone Kizer. What's the point? What is the point of benching DeShone Kizer and putting in Cody Kessler?
Browns logic.
Yeah, it's like
they're just racking up more names on that jersey.
It's like, what's the point here? If you're trying to develop him, of course he's going to go through some rough patches because you're the Browns. You don't have anybody who's good, so I just don't understand benching him. So that's why he's my idiot of the week.
Yeah.
All right, Quentin, upset of the week.
Upset of the week, kind of talked about a little bit. I'm going to pick the Bears over the Saints, mainly because the Saints are leading the South and it's in New Orleans. And, I think with that weak defense, it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for the Bears offense if Fox can actually call some plays properly for once in his life. And, I think, the Bears could be successful later on in the season if they get stuff rolling now.
Yeah, for sure. Mine's going to be the Broncos over the Chiefs. We've talked about how awful Denver's been, but I kind of struggled picking an upset, and my reasoning for this was, why not? You know what? It's the Chiefs have been kind of knocked off that pedestal a little bit. They've been kind of chugging along. They've picked up some losses. Maybe Denver's defense will carry them to victory. Why not? The NFL has been so unpredictable this year. It's been, besides the few usual teams that we know are bad and the few usual teams we know are usually pretty good, it's been kind of a strange season.
Racked up with a lot of injuries.
Yeah, a lot of injuries this year. So yeah, that's all we got this week for you. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow KPCK on YouTube, which you're watching right now. Remember to hit that subscribe button. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything. Yeah. So, I'm Taylor Hoth.
And I'm Quentin Brandt.
Thank you for watching. Until next time, see ya. And always, feathers up.